every right, including state benefit. But one right that the king has, which he would never give up, is his right to collect taxes from us. We are some of the most taxed Arabs. This today, the king has become so collective in his punishment of the people. Our East Bank Palestinian Jordanian brothers, what some of you call the Bedouins, okay, they're now under the same plight. He's torturing all of us. Does anyone talk about it? No. Everyone's busy talking about Israel and how bad the Jews are, killing the Palestinians and butchering them.
Isn't it funny when they constantly talk about Israel being an apartheid state, when there are people who are defined and identify as Palestinians who are under apartheid-like conditions in neighboring countries? Lebanon, Jordan, Syria, people who don't have citizenship in those countries, who are barred from many professions, like being lawyers and doctors, from serving in parliament, from owning property. That's also the situation in Jordan, although Jordan is one of the few countries where the Palestinians actually do have citizenship. And one of those people is a man named Mudar Zaharan, who calls himself the head of the opposition in Jordan. Of course, there isn't any real opposition in Jordan because it's a dictatorship under the Hashemite king, King Abdullah II. As is the case in many Arab countries. They're not democracies. You don't have proper oppositions. That's why this man had to flee to the United Kingdom so he could continue to speak out on what he believes is the right course for his country and for their dealings with Israel. Take a look to what he had to say in this debate.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillahi Muhammad wa ala kafat al-anbiya. In the name of God, the merciful, the most merciful, with prayers and peace be upon all prophets, including our prophet Muhammad. I stand before you today as a Jordanian Palestinian, the son of two Palestinian refugees from the suburbs of Jerusalem. I am a textbook Palestinian. I've suffered all the pain. I've been through all of it. While everyone else is talking about the Arab-Israeli so-called conflict, we are the ones who are actually experiencing it. While the BDS is bleating about our rights from London, we are suffering jails and torture in Jordan. The saga continues for 70 years now. Everyone has a stake except us. We are the ones who have no say, while everyone theorizing, lecturing us how we should be treated and what should happen to us and how evil those Zionist Jews are. Meanwhile, no one says a word about 6.2 Palestinians in Jordan, not 2 million, according to a well-documented US intelligence cable made available by WikiLeaks. There was a country called Palestine. That country was the leftover British creation of the leftovers of the Ottoman Empire. The country stretched from the Mediterranean to the borders of Iraq, including what's today called Jordan, my country. Jews were our neighbors in Hebron. My late grandfather told me about his neighbor, Khawaja Kakum, a Jewish rabbi who, believe it or not, used to do Sharia law judgment for the Muslims in my town. We never had a problem with the Jews in Palestine before the colonial Britons had other ideas about how they should separate us. And then the United Nations, one of the most dysfunctional organizations in human history, decided to separate the land. Jews are our brothers and sisters and neighbors. They have always been. Where does our oppression come from? Let's talk about my country, Jordan. The ruler of my country is a man called Abdullah, Abe, as his friends call him. Half Briton, raised in Surrey, doesn't speak the Arabic language, and he suddenly became king after his father died. Sounds typical, sounds familiar actually. At the same time, this gentleman, since he took over, he cut off every single right Jordanians of Palestinian heritage had in Jordan. Jordan is not a host country. Jordan is a part of our country. Jordan is 78% of Palestine. Jordan is our country. How come you never hear anyone speaking about the king of Jordan denaturalizing up to 500,000 Jordanians of Palestinian heritage between 2004 and 2010? No one speaks about it. You wake up and your passport is taken away. It's your country. Imagine if you were born in Bedfordshire and you wake up and you no longer have a citizenship. You're no longer British. You're no longer entitled to anything. And the Queen has done that to you. Now, this happens in Jordan. We're deprived of every basic right, including joining the police force and the army.
Apartheid, someone?
Every right, including state benefit. But one right that the king has, which he would never give up, is his right to collect taxes from us. We are some of the most taxed Arabs. This today, the king has become so collective in his punishment of the people. Our East Bank Palestinian Jordanian brothers, what some of you call the Bedouins, okay, they're now under the same plight. He's torturing all of us. Does anyone talk about it? No. Everyone's busy talking about Israel and how bad the Jews are, killing the Palestinians and butchering them. Why is that so? Meanwhile, the plight doesn't stop with Jordan. Jordan is the Hashemite kingdom is the most ruthless oppressor of the Palestinians and has been since 1970. It's the media's best kept secret. You go to Lebanon, where Palestinian children are not allowed to be admitted to state hospitals, even if they have the money. And the suffering and the tragedy rolls down into us being second-class subhumans in the eyes of most Arab governments. Why is this? This is simply because the conflict is not actually a conflict. It's a well-designed, carefully manipulated, strategically implanted crisis that has been rolling for 70 years. An example of that is how many organizations have been created to deal with the so-called conflict. The Quartet, for example. What has the Quartet achieved? Nothing, except a very generous bill charged to the United Nations. I'm here to tell everyone, in the capacity of me being the rightful and only legitimate leader of the Palestinian Jordanian majority and the people of Jordan, we don't want the war with the Jews. We don't hate the Israelis. Go to the protests in Ramallah. In Gaza, they used to be in the hundreds of thousands. Today, Hamas has to pay each child $20 so they can go to the fence and throw rocks. You didn't hear this from the public because they would get punished by Abbas and the Palestinian Authority and the King of Jordan for it. We've had enough. So have the Israelis. And I tell all of those who have done very well through the conflict, be it the King of Jordan, be it Arab regimes, United Nations officials, EU clowns, the game is over and the happy hour has ended. And we're moving forward and we're embracing the Jews. And this is going to happen. And don't cry about Trump not giving aid to the Palestinian Authority. We don't get any of that money. In fact, I would like to thank Trump for that. And I'm going to say this in Arabic, English, and Hebrew. Am Israel Chai, Am Yardan Chai. Long live the state of Jordan. Long live the state of Israel. عاشت أمة إسرائيل. عاشت الأمة الأردنية الفلسطينية. Thank you.
That was some strong stuff over there from the Oxford Union debate, Mudar Zaharan. So to explain a bit, what exactly is he talking about there? Well, a bit of history. As some of you may know, the British Mandate of Palestine was a colonial territory. There was no territory in the Ottoman Empire that preceded it for 400 years called Palestine. All right? So when people show you some border of the original Palestine, then they're just talking about the borders that the British negotiated with, first with the Ottomans and then with the French to the north. All those borders are recent borders. But of course, what happened? The border, as he said, stretched all the way into what is today Jordan. It was Jordan and Israel and the Palestinian territories. All that was a British mandate for Palestine. But they cut it off in the middle in the year 1922. Who did it? Winston Churchill, actually. And that was because after the First World War, the end of the Ottoman Empire, the British were in control of that area. There was chaos over there in the east bank of the Jordan River. So they decided to stabilize the situation by helping to impose on that area a new monarch. Who was the monarch? The great-grandfather of King Abdallah right now, Abdallah II. He was Abdallah I. Where does he come from? Does he come from Jordan or Transjordan as it calls there, the other side of the Jordan River? Is that where he comes from? Is he a local leader that the sheikhs erected? No. He comes from Saudi Arabia. The Hashemite king from Saudi Arabia, from the Hijaz, the area of Mecca and Medina. He lost a tribal war with the House of Saud, who took over the Arabian Peninsula. That's why it's called Saudi Arabia. They conquered it, the Saud family, and named the whole peninsula after them. Arabia becomes Saudi Arabia. Those guys, who were promised all kinds of things by the British, the Hashemites, were left stranded. So they decided to shove them over there into Jordan. Abdallah, and there was Faisal as well, who was king of Iraq until he was, or first Syria and then Iraq, and then he was killed. So Jordan is a colonial state. Settler colonialism, colonialism, they say about Israel. That's Jordan. It's a monarch who's not from there. He's from another place. A colonial power, Britain, put him there, installed him there, and he's been ruling there ever since. Oppressing, very often, those people, right? The locals, the Palestinians as they're called, either ones who were there on the east bank of the Jordan River always, or who fled from the west bank of the river with the wars with Israel. Same people, same language, same culture, same religion, same identity. They're all vassals of this foreign king. That's the situation. So he's saying two-state solution. East side of the Jordan for the Palestinians, instead of for the Hashemite king. West side for the Jews. Now, do I agree with this? I agree with the history, although I'm sad to say that I don't agree with his take that all the people in the West Bank and in Jordan actually want peace with Israel. I don't think that's true. When he said there was peace in the land before the British came with their meddling and divide and conquer, that's not true either. The British did their damages for sure, but before that also there was oppression, tons of oppression. The Jews live at dhimmi, second-class citizens, under Muslim rule. Should we get rid of the is it even possible to get rid of the Hashemite monarchy? Is it desirable? Probably not. Would lead to mayhem. Country would be taken over by jihadists. So I don't know. And they're pretty moderate. The Hashemites have been pretty moderate. They've wanted to make peace with Israel in the, from early on in the 50s. Abdallah I, great-grandfather of Abdallah II. Peace treaty still intact. So I don't know. I'm not going to go around destabilizing my neighbors' monarchies. But that doesn't mean that what he's saying isn't true. It's absolutely true. And the fact that it might be the least of evils to keep things as they are, and also because there's nothing that can be done about it, doesn't mean that this country is not a colonial country. It's a country created by colonialists. It's implanting a monarch from one place, putting him on top of people in another. And that's the situation. And people who don't have citizenship, people who were stripped of citizenship, including those in the West Bank, they were Jordanian citizens up until 1988. When King Hussein revoked their citizenship one day like that. You're not citizens anymore. And then they're occupied by Israel, so they can't go live in Jordan. Or they can't become part of Jordan because he took their citizenship away in a stroke. Crazy. Who does a thing like that? What was it, like 1 million people, close to 1 million people, just one day, one bright day, oh, you're not citizens anymore. These are the ugly truths. And when you start digging into every one of these Arab Muslim countries, you find out similar stuff. They're all effed. They're all dictatorships. They're all filled with oppression. They all persecute their minorities. None of them have democracy. But you know what else? Nobody cares. Nobody cares because it's not Israel. It's not the hot topic and it doesn't get you views. Look, I'm talking about Israel here on my YouTube. Look how many views I've been raking in recently. You think if I was talking about Jordan or Congo or Myanmar, people would be tuning in these numbers? No. Israel is the subject people like to talk about. So let's talk about it. But to understand Israel, you have to look at the neighbors. When you look at the neighbors, you see, yeah, they're much worse than Israel. Much, much worse.